Good morning, everyone. It's Sunday, January 16th. Rachael Rollins, the U.S. Attorney for Massachusetts, is our guest this morning. Let's go on the record. Her rise from Suffolk County DA to federal law enforcement has been a rapid one, but not a quiet one. So how will this outspoken trailblazer handle her new responsibilities? Let's go on the record.
From WCVB Channel 5, the inside word from Washington to Beacon Hill. Today's newsmakers are going on the record.
And welcome to OTR on this Sunday morning. I'm Ed Harding, along with News Center 5's political reporter Janet Wu. It's great to have you with us. We continue, as you can see, our social distancing protocols because of the current surge in COVID-19 cases. U.S. Attorney for Massachusetts, Rachael Rollins, is in studio with us. She joins us in studio. Well, you can see she's nearby, but she's not immediately close. Thank you for joining us. Great to see you. Congratulations on the job, by the way.
Thank you so much.
So 1 week on the job, but before you took office, you made national headlines. Despite some serious death threats against you and your children, the U.S. Marshal at that time was not providing security. How do you feel? Have they changed their mind, and how safe do you feel?
So I feel safe. I would not have taken this job if I thought that my safety and the safety of my three children, three girls, 17, 12, and 8, were at jeopardy or risk. I came from a wonderful group of detectives that were protecting us virtually round the clock with the Boston Police Department. But I am not going to comment on my security, but please just know that if I did not feel safe, I would not have taken the job. And we have a really strong working relationship with the United States Marshal Service. Do
you feel that many of these most recent threats are a result of the hearing process that took place down in Washington? I
do. We had a series of threats since I took office as district attorney. They were not as constant and, quite frankly, violent as some of the ones that we've seen recently, and they were more localized. As the DA, when you get threats from outside of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Florida, and other places, it is, or they say, I saw you on Tucker Carlson, or I saw what Senator so-and-so said. It's not even veiled. We know that they're coming based on statements that were made, sort of trying to blame the rise in crime across the country at the feet of a local district attorney who's responsible for Boston, Chelsea, Winthrop, and Revere. So I do think it's because of that, but we've moved past that, and we're going to now start focusing on the incredible work that the U.S. Attorney's Office in the District of Massachusetts does.
Respecting that you're moving past that, is the President or the Attorney General aware of your request for security, just out of curiosity?
I have not spoken yet with, or had the privilege of speaking with, the Attorney General of the United States. We are going to be doing I jokingly sort of call it the U.S. Attorney School, where I'll be going down to Washington, D.C. with other newly appointed and confirmed U.S. attorneys to learn about the job. I think I'll have the privilege of meeting with Attorney General Garland at that time. I don't expect to be talking about my security. I expect to be talking about the great work the District of Massachusetts is doing in the U.S. Attorney's Office.
And to that point, as a district attorney, your bosses were effectively the voters. Well, now you're directly responsible to the President and the Attorney General, as you just mentioned. So politics will be even more pronounced in the office, I guess, is the point of the statement. So are you ready to make decisions through a different lens on who you prosecute?
Yes, absolutely. And you know, you said on who you prosecute. As DA, you're right, there was near complete autonomy. I reported directly to the voters of Suffolk County. They had an opportunity, or have an opportunity, every 4 years to elect their district attorney. But prior to that, I had a job almost my whole life, and I reported up to a boss. Prior to becoming the district attorney, I was the chief legal counsel at Massport. I reported up to the CEO of Massport and the board of directors. I was the general counsel of the MBTA and MassDOT. I reported up to a general manager, a secretary, and ultimately the governor. A board of directors in both of those circumstances. So this is not new to me, having to report up. And how wonderful is it that we get to, with civil rights cases, go up through the Office of Civil Rights and Kristen Clark, or with criminal cases go through the criminal chief or the deputy attorney general and then the attorney general. I don't look at that as a negative thing. I look at it as getting great information from people that have a national understanding of what's happening so that Massachusetts can remain safe and healthy.
You got a lot of scrutiny, as you were talking about earlier, for refusing to prosecute 15 crimes, all misdemeanors, from Republican senators who tried to stop your appointment. Are there any federal crimes you won't prosecute or will be lower on your priority list?
So I ran, as you know, Janet, on a platform of switching the presumption from sort of always arraigning 15 types of nonviolent, non-serious crimes, and then ultimately, Janet, 6, 9, 12 months later, we would dismiss them anyways. I said, what if we switched that presumption and got them services and treatment instead? And what I was able to do in that circumstance is now create a crime strategies bureau at the DA's office, the Project for Unsolved Suffolk Homicides, where we've indicted 3 people on a 20, 30, and 40-year-old homicides that never would have gotten another look without that, and also created the Integrity Review Bureau. Without shifting resources, we wouldn't be able to do that. There's no list at the federal level. There's no list. We have priorities that we are given from the U.S. Attorney of the United States of America. And of course, the 93 U.S. attorneys from the Attorney General, of the United States of America, tells those 93 U.S. attorneys, here are our priorities at the Department of Justice. And each state has to determine what is best for our state. We are always going to be looking to the Attorney General for guidance. But here in Massachusetts, we're going to continue being a leader in national security and healthcare fraud and white-collar crime. But under my administration, I really want to work on trafficking, human trafficking, drug trafficking, gun trafficking.
You're a mind reader, because that was the next area we were going to go to. What types of criminal cases are you most interested in tackling? You just mentioned those. Is that the top, and you build from there?
Yeah, so we, as I said, this office, well before I had the privilege of even working in the office as an AUSA and now leading it as the U.S. Attorney, has been a national leader in healthcare fraud and white-collar crime. We are going to continue operating in that space. And for some of your watchers with national security, that's domestic terrorism, espionage, counterintelligence, some white supremacy, things that we are seeing nationwide rising. That's national security. We're going to continue. But because I come to this job with the background of a local prosecutor, I want us to be far more involved in human trafficking as well, and drug trafficking, the opioid epidemic. We can go on the civil side and the criminal side, because remember, guys, as DA, I could only handle criminal matters. As U.S. Attorney, there is an exceptional civil division, like the Attorney General of our state. We have civil power as well as criminal power, and we're going to be active and involved with our local and state law enforcement partners, as well as, of course, the exceptional federal partners we have.
I'm curious, what about Mass and Cass? I understand your current position, but is there a federal role here in Mass and Cass?
There may be. We've seen situations where certainly there's human trafficking happening there. There's drug trafficking happening there. We know that. It's important for us to see whether we can bring the full weight and resources of the federal government into the conversation that is now includes not only law enforcement, but public health, mental health, housing specialists are there. What can we do to assist? And certainly those pharmaceutical companies that are pumping opioids into communities, or doctors that are prescribing them, we can be helpful. We can be helpful in assisting with things like that.
So it sounds like this is on your radar screen
For sure.
as something that you'd like to give some priority to.
Absolutely.
U.S. Attorney Rachael Rollins is with us. Stay with us. We're on the record.